So again, welcome to the commentary on Vajra Yogini. This is a traditional presentation of the 7 days of the long sadhana. It's following the lineage of principally Ngultru Dhamma Vajra, but also Pabanka Rinpoche. If you do not have the initiation, please, you shouldn't be attending. I'm saying that more for people who might watch on YouTube or somehow got the link. Again, so bring to mind someone that you love. So you actually have a feeling of love in your heart. And then just say, I'm here for them. That feeling, and then is a quite significant shift in, you might say, the chemistry of your body with that thought. That's what a bodhisattva is like. And so, although you only did it with one person, you've opened the door to having the true feelings of a bodhisattva. So we'll follow the prayers of the refuge field, bodhicitta, or refuge, and then bodhicitta, and then we'll offer a long mandala. In the space before me stands Guru Chakrasambhara and Vajra Yogini in union, surrounded by a host of root and lineage gurus, yidams, buddhas, bodhisattvas, dhakas, and dharma protectors. I, in the infinite space of all beings, take refuge in the glorious gurus. From this moment until we reach enlightenment, we take refuge in the perfect buddhas. We take refuge in the dharma. We take refuge in the sangha. I, in the infinite space of all beings, take refuge in the glorious gurus. From this moment until we reach enlightenment, we take refuge in the perfect buddhas. We take refuge in the dharma. We take refuge in the sangha. I, in the infinite space of all beings, take refuge in the glorious gurus. From this moment until we reach enlightenment, we take refuge in the perfect buddhas. We take refuge in the dharma. We take refuge in the sangha. Upon attaining the supreme realization of a Buddha, I shall free all beings from the endless round of suffering and shall deliver them to the bliss of enlightenment. For that may I practice the stages of Vajra Yogini's path. Upon attaining the supreme realization of a Buddha, I shall free all beings from the endless round of suffering and shall deliver them to the bliss of enlightenment. For that may I practice the stages of Vajra Yogini's path. Upon attaining the supreme realization of a Buddha, I shall free all beings from the endless round of suffering and shall deliver them to the bliss of enlightenment. For that may I practice the stages of Vajra Yogini's path. I bow down and take refuge in the gurus and the precious jewels. Please bless me. Before the feet of the guru, non-different from the main deity, I present the offering to the Buddha fields as a gift from my request by entering into the mandala of the Supreme Vajra Yogini. Om Vajra Bhumi Ahum. Here is the mighty and powerful golden base. Om Vajra Reke Ahum. In the center of the iron mountain stands Meru, king of all mountains, to the four directions and subdirections of the four continents and subcontinents. In the east is the treasure mountain, in the south the wish-granting tree, in the west the wish-granting cow, in the north the unplowed harvest. Here is the precious wheel, here is the precious jewel, here is the precious consort, here is the precious minister, here is the precious elephant, here is the precious and best of horses, here is the precious general, here is the great treasure vase. Here is the goddess of play, here is the goddess of garlands, here is the goddess of song, here is the goddess of dance, here is the goddess of perfume, here is the goddess of flowers, here is the goddess of interest, and here is the goddess of light. Here is the sun, and here is the moon. Here is the umbrella of all that is precious, and here is the banner of victories in all directions. Here in the center are all possessions precious to gods and men. This magnificent collection, lacking in nothing, I offer to the Buddha fields as a gift to request of you, O glorious and holy, kind and root and lineage gurus, to be allowed to enter into the mandala of the sublime Vajra Yogini. In your compassion, I request that you accept this offering for the sake of all beings, and after accepting, I request that through your great compassion, you send forth waves of inspiring strength to all sentient beings, including myself. by directing to the fields of Buddhas this offering of a mandala built on a base resplendent with flowers, saffron, water, and incense, adorned with Mount Meru and the four continents, the sun and the moon. May all sentient beings be led to these fields. Send forth to me waves of inspiring strength, so that after training the uncommon paths and becoming a proper vessel, I might easily enter into the holy vehicle for those of good fortune, the Vajra vehicle, which is the supreme of all vehicles. Om Yanam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnir Tayami. So in the traditional manner of teaching a commentary, we did it 2 times yesterday, and so today is the 3rd time, just in brief. So we arrived at the inner offering. The inner offerings represents, you could say, I use the analogy of a mirror, and if you were to look in the mirror and you're sitting cross-legged, the wind relates to your thighs and such, the fire to your stomach, then the skull cup to the level of your heart, and that is the 5 nectars and the 5 meats, as it says in the Sadhana, and then they are labeled by the particular syllables, which is in the, well, it's in the Sadhana I have, I'm not sure it's in the Sadhana you have, and they lie horizontal on that. And then when the wind moves, the fire blazes, the substances in the skull cup melt and boil. That at that time, then all of the ingredients melt and become become liquid. And it said that again, according to the commentary from yesterday, the human being is lying on his side with his face looking away from you, whereas the 4 animals in the subdirections are facing outwardsly. And when the substances start to cook, everything melts. All of the animals, they all sort of dissolve, and it just becomes a fluid. And then the human, or the Katvanga, which makes the nectar, it comes from upside down. It's white, it goes in, it circles 3 times counterclockwise and slowly melts and disappears. And that purifies everything. It makes it nectar. So you'll have no illness, long life, and you'll have much wisdom. The fire burning purifies the aggregates. The clear light, purifies the aggregates. Clear light, fire burns, purifies aggregates. Clear light is the Katvanga and the illusory body. That's what it says in the commentary. So the Katvanga represents the illusory body. And then of course the process is the clear light. Okay, so that's sort of the thing. Now, the most important thing is that this inner offering represents your practice. And remember that it has, well, if you have a relic pill, if you don't, you just use water or alcohol or whatever you care to, but it represents your Dharma practice. And so at the end of going Om Home, you feel whatever is your issue, you put it in the inner offering. And that way then you're giving yourself context or perspective. Because when you've let's come back to the example. You come from Dharmakaya, you manifest some Bhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. I gave the example of it's like you thought you were from a particular country, and then some very wise person comes to you and gives you a new birth certificate and says, no, you were really born in this country. And then all of the benefits of that particular country then come to you automatically because you have that birth certificate. And you could then say the issues of the old country no longer apply because you're a citizen of a different country. Now, what I'm referring to is, if you're coming from Dharmakaya, this one rebirth is just a minor thing in the larger scale of your Dharma practice of many, many, many rebirths. And so that with that idea, you then can sort of disassociate a little bit from the traumas and the issues of this rebirth, appreciating that they ripen for some karmic reason, karma that you've had from the past, and that then you have now the Dharmakaya perspective, and then you have some Bhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, which are the ways to work on them. I described also the idea that, if you're in a I want personal freedom attitude, then all the delusions are your enemies because they stop you from evolving. Did you know actually in the if you look at the stories of the great arhats of the past, they don't meditate on the emptiness of self-existence of phenomena. They just meditate on the selflessness or the voidness of personality or sense of self. So when these arhats are meditating, they go into their meditation, they go to the clear light. They go to their personal nirvana. But when they come out of their meditation and open their eyes, because they have not worked on the phenomenal universe around them, they have to be quite careful that their mind doesn't get caught. So they see everything as a cause of suffering. The Buddha Shakyamuni used the fire sutra, one of his first sutras, to say, you know, your eyes are burning, your ears are burning, your nose, your mouth, your body, burning because of desire. And because you, we'll say, misunderstand the phenomena, but for them, it's from burning that they're burning because you have the potential of having delusions off of these objects. So therefore, only look 2 meters in front of you, always be mindful, just collect the food that you need and go back and meditate, things like that. So that's the arhat, or a person personally seeking liberation. So out of their meditation, not that they would really be that vulnerable because they're incredible beings, but they would not engage any phenomena. When you're in the Bodhisattva vehicle, in general, you first meditate on the selfless, the non-self existence of phenomena. And so when you understand that well, for example, I mean, that everything is always changing, things are happening, they have a continuity of cause and circumstance, it's all interdependent, equally interdependent. I like to say for English, it's all phenomena are open, empty of any self-existence. That's the universes of one taste when you focus on the nature. Okay, with that understanding, then you appreciate nothing as independently self-existent. So things lose their power. They are a dynamic of causes and circumstances and interdependence, merely labeled. Okay, then bodhisattvas then also meditate on the sense of self as not being independently self-existent. And so then what they do is they have personal liberation as their meditation on their sense of self, but they're working for the benefit of sentient beings as the appreciating all phenomena are empty of self-existence. I think Bob Thurman gave a very good commentary on this, and I don't remember, it was the Lankavatara Sutra, or it was, I forget the name of the sutra, and it was that I believe there was the Arhat, maybe it was Ananda, or I can't remember the name exactly, but he heard that the layperson Manjushri was in the area, you know, in his palace or whatever. And so this Arhat, maybe let's just say it was Ananda, he then came to visit Manjushri to do 3 prostrations and venerate him because he was a holy being. And so when he arrived, and sort of arrived, a very attractive little, I guess, offering goddess showed up at the door, and Ananda averted his eyes. And so then he came in and saw Manjushri, and then Manjushri pointed out, he said, for me, I don't look at any phenomena with exaggeration. You still look at a phenomena with exaggeration. That's why you had to avert your eyes. So just the idea between the bodhisattva, I'm helping everybody attitude, versus I just want personal freedom attitude. And it's not related to country. It's just it's the way things are. Okay. Anyway, so you put all of the issues of the day into the inner offering. It gives you perspective. And my point was, coming from Dharmakaya, you have a new perspective on situations, as if you had a brand new birth certificate and passport, for example. Okay, so it's to try to give you analogies about how to work with things. Okay, then the next one was the outer offerings. It's just water for the mouth, water for the feet, perfume, flowers, incense, light, food, and music. Those are then again purified with Om Gandaroy Hom Hom Pe, and then the nature of reality, Om Sobo Shudo Sarva Dharma Sobo Shudo Hum. Then they come from a syllable Kam, which is the Kabbalah. It's the, like, if you check up in Tantra, generally, all phenomena, when they manifest, they first have the first syllable of whatever that object is. So a skull cup in Sanskrit is Kabbalah, K. So it says from a Ka, comes a Kabbalah, or the skull cup, and inside from whom comes the offering. And whom represents the mind. And so the mind is the creator of all phenomena. So therefore, when you do it, water for the mouth, water for the feet, etc., really it's your mind creating these objects with, to the best of your ability, the correct understanding. All phenomena are always changing. They have a continuity of cause and circumstances. They are independent, interdependent, and then empty of any self-existence. So you generate them from your mind's wisdom understanding. And then they give uncontaminated bliss to the 6 senses or 5 senses and such. So that's the blessing of the offerings you do. Okay, now the next in the immeasurable practices, it is the 4th yoga. The last one is the meditation of Heruka Vajrasattva. And one thing that's really precious with the Vajrayogini version is it's very short. I'm sure you're familiar maybe with the Lama Yeshe's Introduction to Tantra or other texts. The Vajrasattva practice can be very elaborate, which is good if that's all you're doing. But when you include it in a sadhana such as Vajrayogini, in this her thing, it's abbreviated. In the Yamantaka practice, it's a bit larger, but the same thing, it is Vajrasattva practice. So remember that when you take refuge and then you do the other bodhicitta and blessing offerings, not particularly, but then the Vajrasattva, that at that point you diminish your self-identity of being Vajrayogini, although you can have the vivid appearance. And that's because Vajrayogini doesn't have to take refuge or bodhicitta. She doesn't have to do Vajrasattva, but we do. So and when you come to the Vajrasattva practice, on top of your crown comes a syllable Vam, which becomes a lotus, and the syllable A becomes a moon cushion, and on top of that, a Hum becomes a white Vajra. Again, this is the more maybe extensive version. Then that turns into Vajrasattva and consort, Heruka Vajrasattva and consort, and then they in their hearts, or they're dressed with the ornaments and with either the 6 or the 5 special things. Then they have silk on their body and such. In both of their hearts, although in the sadhana it just says in the male, but in both their hearts comes a moon cushion with the 100-syllable mantra of Heruka Vajrasattva going counterclockwise in both of their hearts. And then, as you say, the mantra nectar from those 2 come down through the physical union into the lotus, which is like a funnel, and then goes down into the crown of your head. It is 8 finger widths back from your eyebrows. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the point that it is. It's actually an acupuncture point. So then it goes in there and then it washes through your body. This, I want to give you a comparison because it's a really important one, I think, and really establishes the difference between sutra and tantra. Okay, so maybe some of you have ever done a Goenka meditation course. It's where you do a 10-day retreat. It's in silence. It's actually in a dark room, so you have no sensual stimulation and such. And then you do 2 or 3 days of breathing meditation, and then you start scanning your body from the crown to the feet to the crown, back and forth. Then you get introduced to anicca, dukkha, anatma. This is if you've ever attended it, but it's very basic, Buddhism. So so now in that practice, then it's very powerful. I was actually in India, I believe it was about 1972 or 73, and Goenka himself with his wife came to the Tibetan library, and they were going to do. They had been invited by Leah Fried and His Holiness the Dalai Lama to come and teach. And the Dalai Lama wanted all his monks from the dialectic school to do a Goenka course. Okay, so we all slept in one part of the library, for most of us anyway. I was a monk then, and I was sleeping with all the young monks from the dialectic school. And then we had meditated. We all meditated in one of the bigger rooms upstairs. And on a throne up in front of us was Goenka and his wife and such. His wife slept a lot, it seems, anyway. But Goenka was very good, very powerful, and gave the instruction and everything like that. And the idea was the Dalai Lama wanted these monks to have an appreciation for the Theravadan practice, or, you know, actually it's out of Burma. Okay, so, you know, you scanned your body and such and things, and you had some insights for sure. I mean, it's a very powerful technique. But so anyway, that's the technique. And I did that course at a later, and I did another one in Canada because I found them very beneficial, because you didn't do any visualization. You just took consciousness and moved it through your body. And that was quite special because, you know, in our tradition, I mean, Tibetan Buddhism, lots of visualizations. And sometimes I think a visualization can get in the way of an actual experience, because you're sort of, no, you're creating imagery, and so you're maybe not seeing what's really happening. No, depends. Everyone's different. So anyway, why I'm sharing this is because, okay, you do the technique. As you scan, you come across various emotions and feelings, or maybe a sensation or no sensation. You pause there for a while. You know, it is either, you know, it's a need, you know, it's impermanent, it's suffering, and it's not self-existent. You know, that's the anicca, dukkha, and anattma. Okay, so you do those as you scan your body, and so those are the key words you use. But it's basically on the basis of your own concentration. So now let's move over to Vajra practice. So what do? Well, you always see the deity as your guru. And so let's just say, for example, I mean, for me, I use Lama Yeshe because he was very powerful and very flexible with his delusions. I mean, he worked very well. I mean, maybe he had no delusions. So on the crown of my head, I have this very blissful couple, which is very interesting. It's sort of like, well, you know, there is a component of that to be in union. And remember, they're perfectly enlightened. So there's no delusions between those two, you know, perfectly enlightened, and they're giving nectar. So it would be, for me, just Lama Yeshe, the nectar of Lama Yeshe, which is his wisdom, his love, his compassion, his ability. That's what comes down and enters into you. Now, okay, so you do the same scanning you would do with the Goenka course. There's no difference, you know. You go through your body. Now, you wouldn't use, well, you would use whatever words were appropriate for you, you know, I mean, depending on who your teachers were. But again, I mean, things are always changing. They're impermanent. They arise for causes and circumstances. So if there's something that's unpleasant, there's some negative karma that's ripening a little bit. If things are pretty good, it's positive karma ripening. It's all interdependent. And again, I mean, you could use the idea I always like, which is I'm immersed in this atmosphere like I'm at the bottom of a swimming pool. And not only am I immersed, I'm completely penetrated. So it's like I'm a sponge in the bottom of the ocean, you know, and it's just completely open, interdependent, empty of any self-existence. So then that would be a wisdom you could use. Anyway, so as you scan, what you have extra is faith. You don't have that with the Goenka tradition. I mean, maybe you have some faith in the practice or something, but you have an emotional faith here. So for example, let's say you did have the Dalai Lama on the crown of your head, or you had your particular teacher, whomever he would be, or such, maybe Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche or something. I mean, some teacher that really motivated you with love and compassion and patience and such. Okay, so you have faith, and then you come down and you feel that this nectar, no different than the Goenka tradition, flows through the nervous system of your body, down, down, down. If you come to a place where there's no sensation, you pause for a little while and see what's happening. Just observe whether it's hot, it's cold, prickly or whatever, and then you come down, maybe you find something that's painful. Okay, again, you just observe for a little while, and then you carry on down all the way through your body and then all the way back up. But think of it, when you come to a particular thing, particular part, okay, maybe it's difficult, maybe some past trauma or some very strong emotion, anger or something. You're not just having just Vajrasattva's nectar, you're having that with the essence of a guru that you deeply love. And so you feel like they're holding your hand, helping you. So it's very powerful. And when you move to Tantra, remember the three main obstacles for good tantric practice with your nervous system is that the nerves are blocked, they're crooked, or they're dry. So as you scan down your body with then feelings for your guru, just consciousness, focus is very powerful. And so I think that the basic practice of Buddhism, which would be breathing meditation and scanning and such, is greatly enhanced, primarily because of faith and of course a good education. If you have a good education, it helps a lot, which is, things are impermanent and such like that. Also, I mean, you'd have the graduated path. So, if something comes up, particularly about some possession that you have that you're very attached to, or that someone stole some money from you, or you were divorced and your partner got all the money, whatever might be your issue emotionally, it comes up in your meditation, then you're saying, okay, no, impermanence, I obviously, created this negative karma or whatever, so that then your intelligence about the graduated path of enlightenment helps you deal with it. So many facets which are so beneficial. I'll just share that, this goes back to 1972, 73, when Goenka was very popular, that what I tended to see happen was first, that the Goenka students, because they used to come to Dharamsala quite a bit, that they were much more peaceful than we Tibetan practitioners. Much more peaceful. Why? Because they just did calm abiding meditation and then observation. So then one way they were a little better than us at that time. But after 2 or 3 years, I found that most of them came over to Tibetan Buddhism because of the psychology. Tibetan Buddhism has wonderful psychology. I remember in the very first, I was in January of 1971. I'd come to Bodh Gaya. I didn't know a thing about Buddhism. Some nice American woman had sort of said, "Oh, you should go and check out, Dharamsala, the Bodh Gaya. It's where all the Buddhists are." So I went there and I studied for 3 days with a Zen monk named Zengo, and that was in the Gandhi ashram, one side of the stupa. And again, at that time there was none of the development now. Anyway, so I did that. I loved it. It was like, oh, my life is in my own hands. I am the creator of my experience. That was my first sort of experience, a good experience with meditation. Then on the third day, I forget who it was an Englishman. He said, "Oh, there's this Tibetan guy who's going to give a class down by the stupa." So we all went down to beside the stupa. It was actually Nagarjuna's cave is what it was called. It was a little stupa to one side of the big stupa. And so we all packed in there. There was about 8 or 9 of us. So we just filled up the space, Lama Yeshe came, and he had to actually sit on the doorstep of this little space, because there wasn't enough room. But as soon as he started talking, you had this incredible sense this man really understood. Like the depth of his consciousness was profound. And that for me, that hooked me totally. I mean, I really enjoyed Zen Buddhism, but I have to say absolutely that this was so much more incredible with Lama Thupten Yeshe and his thing. And he was full of love and light and happiness. And all I could think of, I've never met a monk as happy as him. And I had my emotional issues coming from Canada and things. So I just thought, I want to be happy like him. So anyway, I followed Tibetan Buddhism. But I'm still come back to the main thing. Your faith, your love, your appreciation of your teacher on the crown of your head, putting nectar inside of you, very beneficial. And especially if you do, for example, the 100,000 mantras. Okay, there's some points that are about the Vajra. It says that in the Vajrayogini practice, it's a lotus that the Vajrasattva and consort sit on. It's got 100,000 petals. So it's just a massive, like it's not the standard 8 or 12 or something. It's got just 100,000 petals. And the nectar as it comes down into you makes your body crystal. Now, there's 2 commentaries here coming from Geshe and Ellen Dargay. One is that you just diminish your identification with Vajrayogini and then you have the nectar wash through you, but you also feel that all sentient beings have Vajrasattva on the crown of their head, and you feel that everybody, all of us together get purified with Vajrasattva. Okay, that's one technique. The other technique that Geshe Darge taught was that in your heart, as the deity, you put yourself in the center, like on a moon cushion or something, and then around that, you basically think all sentient beings are there. The nectar comes down from Vajrasattva, it hits you, the central being, and then all the beings in your heart suddenly have Vajrasattva on them, and then you have the nectar go down and up. It's called the three washings, which we'll talk about in a sec. Okay, so either way, however, what sort of suits your own particular mind. But on the commentary of Trichung Rinpoche, he said that what you feel then is your body becomes clear like crystal. Now there are three washings you do, three processes with the 100-syllable mantra of Heruka Vajrasattva. The first is you just feel that the nectar comes into your body and goes down, and it's sort of like a coarse washing, like everything, like you could say, I like to think of it as like bubbly, like an effervescent sort of like a nectar. And so it goes down just bubbly and it washes clean. Of course, it has full of all of the wisdom and the bliss and the understanding of your guru that you have on the crown of your head, plus your focus. And so you go down through all the parts of your body. Out of the lower portions of your body go the dirt and scorpions and spiders and just really gross things, which represent the heavier karmas that you may have accumulated. So that's the downward washing. Okay, then when you've concluded that, which say, there could be done, for example, if you did 21 mantras, it's 7 for the downward wash. Okay, then you turn around and you feel that the stream goes directly down, hits your pelvic floor, and then slowly starts to fill you up like a vase, filling up and up. And this time, a little bit more subtle obscuration, sort of dirt. So the first washing is like heavy, dirty things like, tar and little scorpions and spiders and things, whatever might be negative. The upper washing, the second washing, which again was 7 mantras, as it goes up, you just feel that the film and the dirt get washed out. And as it comes up, it comes out your nose and your ears and your eyes, or whatever you want to do. And so that's the upper washing, again with 7 mantras, for example. Then the third one is the nectar again goes straight down, and one of my teachers said it's like if you had some thick honey, and so you have this honey in a spoon and you hold it up, and then this honey starts to slowly come down. It doesn't come down fast at all. Like that, then the nectar from Heruka Vajrasattva and consort comes down so slowly inside of you, down, through your brain. Of course, your body's hollow, but then through your pituitary gland, down. And when it comes down to your heart, you can think of like an electric switch there. And when it hits that electric switch, just your whole body becomes clear. It's like you turn on a light in a dark room. All of the final, more subtle obscurations completely disappear, and you're completely clean, and you rest in that sense. And that's the last 7. So the last 7 is this slow descent of the nectar, like a drip of thick honey going down. And when it hits your heart, then you're clear. All, even the most subtle obscurations. And that's where then Trichung Rinpoche says your body becomes clear like crystal. Okay. Also, Trichung Rinpoche said that when you say that Vajrasattva and consort are white, you can make them different shades of white. So they're pearl white and beige white and whatever, snow white. Whatever seems to get some contrast in there. He actually taught that when I was attending private teachings with him in his house, when he shared that particular component. So that's the 100-syllable mantra. Now, I posted on the line the meanings of the mantra, because I know that almost all of us, we've memorized it. So Vajra Heruka Samaya Manu Paliya Heruka Te Nobody, you can rattle it off really fast. I would like to recommend that if you're to do the retreat, or if you were to even do the mantra, you periodically flip over and just do English. So I posted it. If you manage to pull it off the chat, that's good. If not, maybe email our administrator and then he can send it. But the thing is, so I'll read the key points. So it says Om, which can, and I'll go through that in more detail. So it says Om Vajra Heruka. Then this is what you actually are saying in Sanskrit. May I be upheld by you, remain firmly with me. May you be pleased with me. May you be happy with me, have affection for me, bestow me all powerful attainments, make all my actions good. Please make my mind most glorious. Whom, ha 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 ho, blessed one, all thus gone ones, do not abandon me, being of indestructible nature, one of great commitment to others, show, and then it's ahum pay. Okay, so think about it. I mean, I bet you never thought about that. I mean, or unless maybe you got some very good teachings, but it's like a song of love to Heruka Vajrasattva and consort, you know. And so again, I mean, may I be upheld by you, remain firmly with me, may you be pleased with me, may you be happy with me, have affection for me, bestow me all powerful attainments, make my actions good, make my mind most glorious. Whom, ha 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 ho, blessed one, all gone ones, do not abandon me, of indestructible nature, of great commitment, keep your great commitment, ahum pay. Okay, so hopefully that, for what I do when I do retreats in Mexico, and if we do the Vajrasattva mantra, I have them do it maybe 5 or 6 times, just the Heruka Vajrasattva Samaya, and then periodically they have to do it in the English, and we, you know, make it so that it's got things sort of be, you know, Om Vajra Heruka, and then you can't say Om Vajra Heruka Samaya. Okay, may you be upheld by you, may you remain with me, like that. And it makes it much more meaningful. I mean, I did my first retreat, you know, on faith, you know, saying this mantra. I didn't really know what the meaning was too much, you know, but I had a lot of, you know, say faith that this is going to really purify me. I've actually done the retreat of Vajrasattva 2 times. So 2 times I've done the 100,000 mantras, you know, whilst I was a monk in Dharamsala. So if you want to, it's a good thing. They say that, you know, if you have deep feelings about the practice, that you can purify thousands of rebirths of negative karma with the practice of Vajrasattva. Okay, certainly it's a very powerful technique. And why? Well, you could say that the Vajrasattva and consort on the crown of your head are your goal. It's what you'd like to become. Heruka Vajrasattva or consort, I mean, or queen of the Vajra realm would be the other thing. You'd like to become those. So it's like your goal, your meta, your thing. And then the practice is to sort of think. Because what happens is, and of course at the end, is you see all that Heruka Vajrasattva and queen of the Vajra realm are deeply pleased with you. And they turn into light and with the lotus and everything, and they flow down inside of you and become one with you. And so then Lama Yeshe would always say emphasis, and you become Heruka Vajrasattva in union with consort, or if you become, you know, depends which side of the fence you want to be on, whether you're queen of the Vajra realm or whether you're Heruka Vajrasattva. And I think that's important to emphasize. Both Heruka Vajrasattva or queen of the Vajra realm equally are enlightened, equally have all the realizations. So we shouldn't diminish it. So that then you become either the Heruka Vajra consort or queen of the Vajra realm. Okay, and then you rest in that with great bliss. Your body is clear crystal and such. And you feel that whatever negativities you've accumulated are purified. Of course, with all of this, you do have to have what's called the 4 opponent powers: regret, refuge, the technique, in this case Vajrasattva, and dedication. So the standard one would be the standard commentary by many lamas is it like, well, I'll use a good one. Okay, so let's say you go to town and you take some water and you're going to drink it, and it's in your mouth, and all of a sudden you realize it's contaminated. It's going to give you massive diarrhea. So you spit it out, you wash your tongue out with maybe some other water, something like that. You know, it's like, I wish I hadn't done that to myself. The actual best way to think of regret is like that, you know, let's say you let yourself get angry, or you let yourself feel possessive, or you get jealous or competitive. And then you have to think of like, that's like, eating contaminated or drinking contaminated water is going to give me massive diarrhea, so much pain in my stomach. Just horrible. I wouldn't want to do that again. So you have this, well, you say regret. I like to think of it in simple terms, just, I don't want to do that again. Again, in Mexico, I sometimes joke, I say, like, you go to a taco stand, and you eat some tacos and they give you massive diarrhea, and then you think, oh, but you're so attached to the taco stand. So you keep going back, you keep having this horrible diarrhea. Okay, well, at some point you realize, I got to stop doing this, even though I'm attached to that, they just make me so sick. That's exactly how you should feel about your anger or your possessiveness or your jealousy or the negative emotions. I'm insecure, I'm weak, I have low self-esteem, I don't think very good of myself. Those are delusions. So often we focus on the aggressive delusions, but there's also the subtle delusions. They're also things that make us suffer. You could say they give us diarrhea. So first is then that, like, I never want to do that again. Again, you do that within the context of how long you can do that. So remember, that's the dedication, like for this morning or this evening or for this week or this month or whatever it seems to be appropriate. But the thing is, that's the first one, like, oh, I don't want that diarrhea again. I'm not going to do that. That's the first step. Second one then is take refuge. Well, that again, sometimes they reverse those. So, it depends on who your teacher was. Say sometimes it's refuge first and then regret, but it doesn't matter. Then the second one is that, well, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, especially the Buddha inspires me. And you could say the Sangha, the Bodhisattvas, they inspire me. They're people that have worked on their stuff and they're free of it. So then again, I feel, wow, I'm really inspired by them. So the second one is the inspiration. Buddha's gone through millions of rebirths and finally cultivated and became the fully enlightened Buddha Shakyamuni. Wow, that's inspiring, Had many rebirths like my rebirths. So the Buddha has empathy for me. So that's that. Then the Dharma is the real technique, realizing that delusions cause suffering and things, being more careful with our karma, understanding what's important and not important, for example, with possessions, relationships, or our body. All of those teachings very, very beneficial. Okay, that's the second thing. I take refuge Dharma, and then refuge in the Sangha. Again, Bodhisattvas, people that have worked and done retreats that I really inspired by, or gone beyond their delusions. I think that if you think of a bodhisattva, and again, like, why would bodhisattvas be happy to help others? Okay, so let's say you're a bodhisattva and you were very jealous or very competitive or whatever, like so you did that, and you had someone that you attached to, and then it was so possessive, and then you're feeling insecure, like, about yourself and things like that, and it was miserable. How many relationships you ruined by your jealousy and your possessiveness and things. So then, you became a Buddhist and you meditated and you got the big cause of jealousy is low self-esteem. You don't think you're good, so you possess it to people who seem to make you happy. Anyway, again, there's lots of emotional dynamics there. But the point is so then you do a lot of meditation, and then, you arrive at the other side, like the sun rises and you're finally free of jealousy. In fact, you're just full of love. And, if you really have a lot of love, you never have to be jealous. People love you. They'll be possessive of you if you really have nice feelings, not that you want that, but the thing is, so then you're finally free and you go like, wow, jealousy just doesn't work, and I'm so happy because I'm free of it. I have a good heart. I have good self-esteem. So when you see somebody else jealous, you can go, this is again, it's the empathy, like, whoa, hey, you don't need to be like that. You can evolve, or purify, however you want to phrase it, to that person if they're willing to listen. But the point is, so I often think that bodhisattvas have the bliss that they've attained some freedom from, or they've retained freedom from a particular delusion. And so it's like, wow, if, like, or maybe use the example of diarrhea, they got the medicine and it's, oh, my diarrhea, all of the pain, doesn't exist anymore. Hey, here's this medicine, again, they don't evangelize because remember, bodhisattvas are intelligent. The audience has to be receptive. So if the audience still is very attached to the tacos, you can't do too much, but you could say, well, I don't know, those tacos are so clean, I don't know if anger is the best way to deal with that. I don't know if jealousy is the best way to deal with that. And they go, huh? And then you could say, well, I was jealous one time, man, and it just ruined my relationship. They, oh, really? And then I learned how to meditate. So you say, if the audience is receptive, you try to help. If they're not, you practice patience and love for them. You don't criticize them. If you have just if you were accepting of somebody who has a lot of problems, inevitably they're going to say, wow, you're always nice to me. Why are you nice to me? Like, what's going on with you? And it's, well, I meditate. No, I'm a Buddhist or whatever, So that's one of the reasons why bodhisattvas are always friendly. It's a very natural way that people will then ask you, why are you so happy? So anyway, I'm just saying that I'm talking about that bodhisattvas, they have a joy of having liberated themselves from particular delusions. And so they can say, they have a joy to say to you, oh, you don't, there is a life after attachment. There's happiness after attachment. There's all sorts of joys. Anyway, so coming back to the practice of Heruka Vajrasattva, we take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha. Buddha is the big inspiration. Dharma is the actual technique with all of the graduated path meditations. And then finally, the Sangha are people that can inspire us, that have gone beyond their jealousy or repetitiveness or their low self-esteem and insecurity or whatever it may be. Okay, so that's the second point, second of the 4 point powers. Third one is Vajrasattva practice. So again, then on the crown of your head, you have Heruka Vajrasattva and Queen of the Vajra realm. I think it's better to say it that way than say Vajrasattva and consort. It sort of diminishes her. They're equal. They're both Buddhas. Okay, so you have them on the crown of your head, and they're inseparable with a guru that gives you great inspiration. Really, you can say like Lama Yeshe dealt so well with his delusions. I mean, we never had them, however you want to think about it. Or Dalai Lama. I mentioned in the teachings today in the class in the afternoon, like every day the Dalai Lama had people come to him in the first few years, and maybe even now, crying about how the Chinese abused them and destroyed things and killed family members and all sorts of horrible things. And the Dalai Lama never ended up hating the Chinese. He had compassion for them and even wish that may they have happiness, in an intelligent way, not be so thing. So I think that Dalai Lama is an incredible inspiration for us to not hold a grudge or anger with people that cause suffering. They're just sentient beings looking for happiness in all the wrong ways. Like Russia is looking for happiness in all the wrong ways. And if you think about it, just Russia, they have now alienated all of the countries that are around them because they're all afraid Russia will invade. So suddenly NATO wins massively. If hopefully there's peace, and Russia completely blew it by relying on anger or aggressiveness. So compassion to Russia, not hatred, just compassion, looking for happiness in all the wrong ways. Anyway, so third thing, Vajrasattva mantra. So you have the Dalai Lama on the crown of your head. You have Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. Even if he's passed away, it doesn't matter. Your faith and your inspiration in him. Or you have, Kadrola or a female Buddha, whoever you inspire. And then that nectar goes through you, downward washing, upward washing, light flash in the heart chakra. Those are the things you do. So again, with the mantra, like, may I be upheld by you, remain firmly with me, may you please with me, may you be happy with me, have affection for me, bestow me all powerful attainments, make all my actions good, make my mind most glorious. That's beautiful. And that's what it is. On Vajra Heruka Samayamanu, Palia Heruka Teno, Vardiga Drido, Mevo Supuke, Mevo Supuke, Mevo Anuraka, Mevo. To be honest, I don't know what I'm saying there. I've got the mantra memorized, but I don't, Anuraga Meba is be attached to me. I know that much, but the other ones not so much. So why not say the mantra periodically with the English or French or Spanish, whatever you're doing, just to make it more connected to you. And then, so that's the third point. Fourth point, then do the dedication. So this morning I will, not be angry, or I will not be competitive, or I will not be pathetic, or whatever, and then, oh, all day tomorrow I'm not going to do it. So that's the Vajrasattva practice. Okay, with all of the related teachings. Okay, now, okay, so we're just about an hour. We're gonna come back. We're gonna call a break because it's 50 minutes worth of teaching. So we're do a 10-minute break. We're just pausing the video and then we'll start the video up. We're not canceling the Zoom. Please stay in the Zoom. Okay, so we're going to pause the video, and then in 10 minutes we'll come back. So you'll go to the bathroom or get your cup of coffee or whatever you'd like to do. And then when you come back with a great motivation for doing this, then we're going to go into Guru Yoga. Okay, so we'll just pause. So see you in a few minutes. So welcome back, everybody. So we've concluded the practice of Vajrasattva, the visualization, the technique, the 4 opponent powers. Now, at this point, when we move to the next section, you can fully bring up your sense of identification with being Vajrayogini. Okay, so now Geshe Darge gave some very good instruction on this. The first phase of a deity yoga practice is merely identification. Excuse me. And although I know the word is sometimes divine pride, I personally find that one a little difficult because it's like I'm proud of my watch, I'm proud of my house in a certain neighborhood. It's subjective, it's subjective, objective. And I wonder if that for the Tibetans, it has that same meaning when they say divine pride. It's Ngangyal. I am victorious would be the actual. I glorious. I victorious would be Ngangyal. Okay, so the in English, as they say, pride tends to be like of an object, or you could say pride. Well, pride of your education or something like that. And so I like the word personally, identification. Again, this will have to be maybe reviewed by people that translate and people who teach. I think Buddhism, the language of Buddhism is still in a process of being refined in Western culture. So it's quite important to that things slowly are made to be more accurate. I talked earlier about ignorance versus wisdom, and in Tibetan language, it's Rikpa or Marikpa. So you have Marikpa, I don't understand, to Rikpa, I understand. So you can't say I have ignorance and I have no ignorance. I mean, this doesn't quite work because the word Rikpa, the root of that is to be understanding, and ignorance doesn't have that, or ignore. I'm not sure. I'm not a linguist, but I just think that it's better to say I don't understand, or I understand or I don't understand. Rikpa, Marikpa. Anyway, so I'm just talking about words. So in the sense, I am, I identify with being Vajrayogini. Now, we talked about this before with the idea of like being from a certain country. And I'm, you like, for example, I'm a Canadian. I have this sort of innate sense of what it means to be a Canadian. Maybe you're from Norway or Finland or France, and you have this innate sense of what it means to be that country with all these languages. That's identity. So when you say I am Vajrayogini, you want that type of emotion, feeling, and such to arise, that there's this natural sense of identity. So when you arrive to the Guru Yoga practice, you have then the sense of identity. Okay, so That's the first component. And then with a strong sense of identity, the visualization will slowly arise. So as with Geshe Darge's commentary, just first, okay, I am Vajrayogini, all of the qualities of what I understand of Vajrayogini, or the innate sort of aspects of being Vajrayogini arise, especially when you do, what let's say the basic retreat is called Leerung, which is suitable for activities. There's also called Nyempa, which is to get close. So when you do a retreat, you get close to the deity. And there's 3 ways to do retreat. I mean, the one which is called for Leerung, which is suitable for activities, is you have to do the 100,000. But there's 2 other retreats. One is by time, and the other one is by sign or indication. So if you're not particularly concerned about numbers of mantras, which would be quite good, then you should shift over to, for example, I'm going to do a retreat this weekend from Friday night until Sunday night or Monday morning, or I'm going to do a retreat from Friday night till the following Sunday afternoon, a week Sunday afternoon. That's by time. And that's a proper retreat. Okay, or by sign. Now that one, traditionally would be that you have a vision of Vajrayogini, but it could be by just having a dream. Although one has to be careful. I will talk about dreams a little later. But for now, let's say those are 3 ways you could do retreat. But the point is, get close is the connotation. So when you have a lot of practice for being Vajrayogini or Yamataka or Heruka, whatever deity you pick, then the innate qualities start to become just part of your mind, of your identification. So again, that's my point. And also, Buddhism is non-dualistic. Most religions are dualistic. There's God and us, or the supreme being and us. Whereas in Buddhism, it's non-dualistic. That means is that when you arrive at the ultimate, you are one, non-dual with that ultimate. Sometimes that's misinterpreted as being egocentric. It's not. It's you are one with the ultimate, which is the correct understanding of reality and great love and compassion. It's not egocentric. Actually, just a quick thing. The word, very often you'll hear like we're egoless. That is the worst translation that ever happened for Buddhism, because ego has all of these connotations. Ego, well, this has so many connotations coming from Freud and all the other psychological things that it's sort of like the center of who you are. I think much more valid is to say sense of self. My sense of self had a good morning. People were nice to me. I feel pretty good. Or, I have a particular problem, or someone was rude to me. My sense of self gets agitated. It's a more dynamic thing than saying ego. And of course, the big one is the ego of the Buddha. I'm sure you all cringed when I said that. We'd say, oh, the Buddha doesn't have an ego. No, the Buddha has a sense of self. And the other one, Lama Yeshe was great for this. He said, Buddhas have personality. If you think of Buddha Shakyamuni, 2,500 years ago, he didn't have radio, TV, newspapers, or anything like that. He must have had a very attractive personality, like really a beautiful quality about himself. I mean, obviously, omniscient, and maybe this being in his presence was really powerful, but he also had to have a very, good personality, because he affected the whole of Asia, India, Nepal, Tibet, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. I mean, you don't accomplish that by having a, Mr. Potato Head personality. You have an unbelievable personality and presence and wisdom and things. So I just think one has to be careful. Like the word, an adjective, egocentric, is appropriate. Your sense of self is egocentric. That's accurate. Your sense of self doesn't understand. Your sense of self is happy. Or you could say, I mean, my sense of self is reasonable. Or then, with the Buddha, his or her sense of self is enlightened. It works. There's no sort of like problem with that terminology. So just as a translator, it's something I like to sort of advocate. Maybe it'll be accepted or maybe not. Certainly the Buddha's ego, it just sounds so inappropriate. So, sorry, we're talking about identification. And so we have a sense of identification, which brings up some innate sense of qualities. And that's what we see ourselves as Vajra. Okay, so so the Guru Yoga, it says it's the easy way to collect good karma, easy way to collect a lot of positive energy. So I believe in the initiation, or even I think on the first day of commentary, I talked about how do you see a guru? Because we always get taught, see the guru as a Buddha. Well, I find that difficult, where I see the guru as having the realizations of a Buddha, then that's powerful. Like my guru has opened the central channel, seen the clear light, has the illusory body, is clairvoyant, or has great wisdom and compassion. I mean, that seeing a teacher having those qualities, you don't have much problem with the way they look, if they're fat or skinny or whatever they are, man or a woman. You're seeing their light and quality. That's seeing the Buddha as a guru, the guru as a Buddha. And again, the prayers that like, may I never even have 1 second of having doubt in my guru. That's so stressful. I think you practice well. And then there's the analogy with gurus. If you're too close, you get burned. It's like fire. So if you're too close to the fire, you get burned. If you're too far away, you're cold. So you got to find just the right distance from the guru. Too close would be you see them in a mundane way. Too far away, you don't get the inspiration. You just got to find the right distance. The other analogy is like getting milk from a tagger. You have to do that very carefully. So being around your gurus, you have to be very careful. I like the other one about the fire. I think it's a more appropriate example. So easy way to collect good karma, being inspired. I was deeply inspired by Lama Yeshe. He was the main reason that I thought I can become a monk and I'll practice. And then if I moved over to Geshe Rapton, then great meditator and yogi, great inspiration again. And I mean, Geshe Rapton was this heavy set man. I mean, I used to think he looked like a big truck driver, like I'm really tough, he was Kampa, but he had this wonderful, his mouth went straight across and at the end curled into a smile. He was very, very precious, and he was so kind and so compassionate. And all the other gurus, each guru has a particular quality, especially nowadays. So you might have several gurus, one of them a bit more compassionate, one more wise, one more full of laughter, like Lama Yeshe. So that's good. Like they take them all as showing facets of enlightenment. What we do, again, just talking of Guru Yoga, let me see what's happening with time. So I was a translator for one Lama, and it sort of, he always made sexual jokes whenever he was sort of teaching. So, okay, I'm a translator. I just translate the joke, whatever, that's fine. And then at one point, it was found out that he actually was relying on prostitutes. And he was a nice Lama. I can't say he was my, my guru, but he was one of the Lamas that I translated for, and I liked him. He had a nice personality. But suddenly, there's this sort of like, whoa, I mean, you could say scandal that came up with him. And so then, we always have the issue of like, how do we deal with that? And so my reaction was this, and I just share this is how to deal with when your gurus have a scandal, is that he was showing me what not to do. So because of the way that he was, I said, don't make sexual jokes when you're teaching the Dharma. He gave me the example of how it would be totally inappropriate. So thank you. He showed that it's not good to do it. And then the second thing is it just, again, the sexually inappropriate activity, which now is a big thing. Again, okay, just don't do that. That's, be a good quality teacher, or if some teacher gets too grandized, and then there's the whole thing of we say power corrupts and ultimate power ultimately corrupts. I think it's a very accurate sort of thing with, you think some of the teachers that are now scandalized, that was it. They just had too much power and it got scandalized. So good always to be humble. I mean, I think Lama Zopa is a great example of humble. I mean, he's so sweet and so special. And Dalai Lama, of course, very humble. Like he said, whenever he meets anybody, says, "Oh, my old friend," so sweet. Anyway, so I'm just sharing some thoughts about gurus. If you do have teachers that inspire you, don't expect that one teacher is going to embody all qualities, but some teachers might embody a particular thing that really excites you or motivates you and such. And if you have a teacher like that, excuse me, I have allergies. If you have a teacher like that, then collect some karma with that teacher. I think I shared the story that when I was in India, I guess it would have been 1976 or so, I'd heard a lot of stories of Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen. He's the Kuno Lama. He's the one that wrote Praise of Bodhicitta. It's about 360 verses. He wrote one a day about bodhicitta. I have the book. It was translated by a close friend of mine, Gareth Sparham. Anyway, so I heard about him, and he was the teacher of the Dalai Lama. And an example is a complete renunciate. He didn't have any grand sort of ideas about himself. So when the Tibetans invaded, when the Chinese invaded Tibet, he was Indian. He was from the Kulu Valley, so he came out to India, but he had a completely open. You might say he's a bodhisattva or a Buddha. I mean, who knows? But he would go to the Hindu ashrams, or the Hindu temples, and such, and that's where he'd live. And so he's just wandering India, this incredible master and such. And he was well known in Tibet and Lhasa. He'd been a teacher of grammar and things like that, and also for bodhicitta. Anyway, so the Dalai Lama went looking for him and such. And so they finally found that he was in Benares, staying in a Shiva temple. And so anyway, the Dalai Lama wanted him to teach. So anyway, it turns out the Dalai Lama, I guess he would have been about 26 or 27 years old then, quite young. They came to Benares, and then an attendant of the Dalai Lama went up, and there was this little cell with Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen sitting in it, and doing his prayers or where he was, a Shiva temple, and the attendant said, the Dalai Lama would like you to meet with you and to talk. And Kuno Lama Tenzin said, I'm sorry, I can't travel, to see the Dalai Lama. And he said, no, Dalai Lama is downstairs. So Dalai Lama came up and invited him, and then I'm not sure all the details, but there's many stories of him. I knew of these stories, and I was deeply inspired. I mean, here's a man, doesn't have a big household and lots of servants, he was the tutor of the Dalai Lama. He could have easily been in a fantastic monastery with servants and everyone taking care of him, wearing wonderful clothes, and no problem, because of who he was. But he didn't do any of that. So anyway, I thought, I want to see him. So I found out he was in Sopema, which is close to Dharamsala. So I got another monk with me called Pema to travel. And I've told the story before, but I want to share it. So anyway, I at that point, gold wasn't so expensive. So I went and got a piece of gold made, and I got it hammered flat and made into a little Dharma wheel, because I wanted to really collect some special karma with him. And then with the Nindak, it was the monk that traveled with me, we went to Sopema, and then we went looking for him. And we found out, he's staying in this particular stone hut. We arrived, it's just all mud floor, mud walls, and he was on the second floor. So we had to climb up a log to get up to the second floor. And here's this man sitting in the corner with old man, and a blanket wrapped around him. His glasses were so thick, it's sort of fogged over, and maybe he had a couple teeth, and he was just sitting in the corner. And this is Kuno Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen, the tutor of the Dalai Lama, could be living in a famous monastery, could be wearing silks and brocades, and he's sitting in a corner of a mud hut, with slate roof, with the wind blowing through it. And he has an attendant, Kadro, was a woman. She was sort of helping with him. Anyway, and so, we came in, we did 3 prostrations, and then I gave my offering, and I said, "Can you please give me bodhisattva vows? Because you're a bodhisattva. I want that from you." So then he said, okay, yes, and then I said, please, can you also give me the lung, the transmission of the first chapter of the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Bodhisattva's way of life. He said, yes, he'll do that. Okay, so we did 3 prostrations, got in a kneeling posture. He gave us bodhisattva vows to both Nindak and I, and then he read the first chapter. And then I say that my mind must have been possessed by a Mara, because then he said, oh, if you want to stay, I'll teach you all of this. And I said, oh, I have to go back to Dharamsala. I often think, I blew it. Anyway, but the thing is, I did get Bodhisattva vows, and I did get the first chapter, and it was great. And he was very kind and things. And again, just this little old man who could have been, living the life of Riley, I guess, or whatever, just there. So I take that as one of the most pure, special events that ever happened in my life. And I got to collect karma with him. So I'm sharing that in the sense that if you do find a teacher who is very humble and very special and has bodhicitta and things like that, try to get some karma, because that'll show up in your next rebirth. Or if you can go to holy places and do, 100,000 prostrations or something like that. I mean, I've done 150,000 prostrations, of which 50,000 of those were the Buddha's stupa. If you've ever been there, there's these wooden boards you can borrow and you bang away and things like that, But I wanted this karma. I wanted that karma in my life. I was a monk, so I, of course, was fanatical that way. But the thing is, so we can do those sorts of things. We don't have to be a monk or a nun. But hey, so right now you're in the edge of Vajra Yogini Tantra, an incredible tantra with Heruka, Vajra Yogini. Well, rejoice in it and practice it. And for example, in Canada, in British Columbia, there's some women every 2 weeks, because they've done the retreat and fire ritual. Every 2 weeks, they get together and do self-initiation. So it's a women's party. So if you're a woman out there, try to get the retreat done and such, and then do the self-initiation every 2 weeks with a bunch of your girlfriends. You are liberated women. And maybe there's some nice enlightened guys around, so invite them. It said that soak is best when it's both male and female together. That's called a perfect circle of soak. If it's just women, it's someone. If it's just men, it's another thing. And anyway, there's some commentary coming up about soak, which we'll get to in a little while. Okay, so we're just at the beginning of Guru Yoga. I really wanted to emphasize just how to, how precious it is to have good gurus. Anyway, so we'll start off with first, then there's the inner offering. We covered that again. Vajrasattva practice. In the crown of my head, that's 8 finger wicks back. That's the acupuncture point, the needle point that you do. So you visualize the stem of the 1,000-petal lotus goes in there. It's got a moon cushion. You can see the moon cushion is sort of porous, so the nectar can go through it. And on top of that is Heruka Vajrasattva and Queen of the Vajra realm. And they both have in their hearts the moon disc with the 100-syllable mantra going counterclockwise around it. And then as you say the nectar, both of them, the nectar comes down, exits from the point of their physical union, comes through the lotus and comes down into your body. And then there's a variety of things I do. I mean, one is I just feel that all of the atoms or the molecules of that nectar is little lama yeshis. Again, this is my faith. But little lama yeshis, and they're just bubbling through me. And so when I come to a certain point and then I hit either a numb place that my nerves are obviously dry or crooked or blocked, I just feel that, lama yeshi, these little molecules of lama yeshi are all this, nectar, bliss, and happiness dancing on those, and they open it up. Or for example, if I come across a delusion, something I did which I really regret, I wish I'd never done it, but I did it. Okay, I never want to repeat that again. 4 opponent powers. Then I just put lama yeshi goes into that. And he helps it finish it. I have a friend in Toronto, and he was a direct student of Lama Yeshe. He said whenever he had a problem or an issue, he'd say, what would Lama Yeshe do? And it immediately gave him options. Rather than me, what am I going to do? No, what would Lama Yeshe do? Oh, and he would have a solution to the thing, or at least have some inspiration. That's Guru Yoga. So anyway, so then again, so for me anyway, I have this effervescent, Dalai Lama, Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa, Dugu Khyentse Rinpoche. I mean, I have gurus in all 4 lineages. That's washing down, and all of the heavy stuff completely goes away, and filling up, and again, all the more subtle goes away, and then the light switch in the heart, everything becomes purified. That's the 100,000 mantra of that. And your body becomes like crystal. So at that point, then, I mean, whether you're the Vajra Yogini doing this, or whether you're with less divine identification, or whether you're having them all in your heart, like I described at the beginning, that's your choice. I would recommend that you do really scan your body. So maybe being Vajra Yogini and having washed through and everything would be a little more effective. Why? Because of the power of your concentration or your focus going through your body does wake up the nerve system in your body. As you come down to your throat, you fill that area with your consciousness, your awareness. And so the blockages, the crooked, the dry nerves channels become humid, flexible, unblocked. And again, if you have faith, even more so, and you come down to your heart, maybe you had a traumatic situation, or someone betrayed you viciously in a love relationship. No, you just fill it all up with love and happiness and the love of Lama Yeshe or whatever your gurus were. Is full of your heart, and that cleans and purifies the nervous system in that area. And also then that like Lama Yeshe would have forgiven that person, I can too. Or the Dalai Lama can forgive that person, I can too. Whatever, then you go down. So that's the Vajrasattva practice. And then you can allow yourself to, because do the mantra a little bit in Sanskrit and a little bit in English, just to really get a good clarity about it. And then you shift to Guru Yoga. And at that point, you again bring up a high identification. I'm Vajra Yogini. And all of the, you might say, subtle identifications that would go with being Vajra Yogini, they come up. Okay. So that concludes the talk for tonight. We're not in a rush. I mean, we have 4 more nights to go. I might have to go a little fast at the end. But the things we're talking about, they're so fundamental to a good practice. So although you might think, I hope we get to completion stage practice, we'll talk about it. But let's just sort of get the fundamentals down really well, because that's the sign of a good practice. Okay, so that concludes the teaching, but now I'd like to open it to questions. So I have someone who will, you can type your questions in, and then I will answer as best as I can.
Okay, what's the name? Was it Kunu Lama? The name of
Kunu Lama Tenzin Gyaltsum.
Yeah.
It's Ku.
Lama Dorje, Kunu Lama.
Yeah. And the book is Praise of Bodhicitta. It's available on Amazon. And maybe from other Dharma stores too.
When Dr. A says, when doing Guru Yoga as Vajra Yogini, do we visualize ourselves becoming her with Vajra and Bell, or with Skullcup and Katvanga?
Well, that's actually interesting. I don't, generally, I think it's just your Vajra Yogini with Skullcup and Cleaver. I mean, I guess you don't want to be too cluttered in your meditations. So you could have maybe the Katvanga turns into an earring on your left ear or something. Be practical about it. She will have her cleaver, because when you get to the Kusali offering, she has to have a cleaver to cut it off. But hey, you're magical, so your cleaver and Skullcup can disappear for a little while, and then they just appear again, because you're magical. You're Vajra Yogini. You don't have limitation. So maybe on some occasions you should just be without any implement. You can have this crown and the bone ornaments and things. That's just natural. That's jewelry. But the actual implements, because definitely in the Kusali, you would need your cleaver and actually your Skullcup, because when you hold it up and you do the offerings. So I'd say be versatile, whatever seems most appropriate at that time.
Okay, Sakyam Droplet asks, does the Tummo practice from Heruka have a different effect from the Tummo practice from Vajra Yogini, at least at first, before they both bring us to enlightenment?
That would be personal. Why I say that, because if you think about it, okay, I'm a man, okay, male sort of identification. And then I say, okay, I am Vajra Yogini. So, it's not like, you put Vajra Yogini's vibrant, blissful body inside of your body, and that would be very stimulating. and excuse me, allergies, so sorry. Lama Yeshe, I mean, you should read the book, the Psychic Heat by Lama Yeshe. I forget the exact name of it, what it's called, the thing, but okay, but he gives some very, very good commentary on psychic heat. But I'm just saying, first off, if you invoke Vajrayogini inside your body, well, you're going to wake up your body a lot if you have faith and an appreciation for just how vibrant, youthful, and energetic she is as as an enlightened lady or enlightened young woman. Okay, if you're Heruka, then you have to have that type of identification of that, like you're the king of the yogis. You have that identification. So you have this sort of very strong masculine sort of identification and such, and you have all tantric abilities of that. So it would be a little bit related to what might stimulate you the most. In the Tumo meditation, one of the components is that you do visualize yourself in union. And Lama Yeshe, again, in his, I believe it's in the commentary of his, Psychic Heat or whatever, I can't remember the title of his book, I'm sorry, but that you feel that from the place of union of the male and the female, you as Heruka or you as Vajrayogini, it doesn't really matter, that then you feel you draw a little bit of, say smoke, like a bit of incense. So if you're on the male side, you pull that down your urethra to the pelvic floor, up to your stomach, and then you have sensation there, and then that's the cause for the psychic heat. If you're a female, you would do it from the top of your vagina. That's where Lama Yeshe is very clear. The top of the vagina, just before it goes in the uterus, that's the place of the top of the nerve channel. At least that's what he taught me. Maybe he's taught other people other things. And so that then you feel it goes from there, pelvic floor, up to the abdomen. So again, the woman, female side, she would sort of pull a little bit of Lama Yeshe used incense smoke from the top of the penis of her visualization, okay, and then it goes down to the floor, it comes up to the navel, and then you generate feeling in your abdomen. So that'll come up in the teachings later on to some extent. So I'm giving you some details, but it's available in the book by Lama Yeshe and such. I think it comes down to what activates your nervous system the most would be the most appropriate, but with control. That would be the really key point with your Tumo meditations, okay?
Okay, Chris Huang asks, you mentioned slashes in the text from Ek and the red phenomenal sources.
Anybody got a pen?
Clarify that briefly?
Yeah, I need a pen.
All right.
Okay, there's a felt. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so the dashes are this. Okay, so sorry on that. So what it is it's like in the Tibetan language. If I do a thing, it's like, let's say you have the syllable ah. Okay, so the ah at the top. Okay, now what the thing is it's a dengbo, which is this. The dengbo, and that makes it a. Okay, it's not e, it's a. That's ah, dengbo, a. So the Tibetan, they say double a's appear. Well, what appears really, let me see if I get another piece of paper. Okay, okay, here, I got a piece of paper. So what appears in space, is 2a, like that. That's the start, and then that becomes one of the double stack reality source, and that's just the thing. And then you do the other one, and you get that. So hopefully, you can see the marker. That's the best thing we could find. So when you say a, it's just a slash, and it's a dengbo in the Tibetan language, and that is always on top of a syllable ah. So the dengbo ah. Ah, dengbo a is, well, that's it. Ah, dengbo a. It's the vowel. There's actually some teachings we'll do when we talk about that a little bit about the Tibetan language and how it actually, you can say the whole of the universe is pervaded by the syllable ah. But I'll try to teach that at another time. It's very interesting. It's the Tibetan language is totally a spiritual language.
Okay, Dre Melo asks, are Vajravari and Vajrayogini the same?
Generally, you could say yes, but also it depends on the lineage. So, for example, in the Karma Kargyu lineage, you have Vajra Vetali, and she's dancing. Vajrayogini she's standing in a different posture. Yeah, you could look at it this way. Tara is the very sweet form, and when Tara gets, I wouldn't say upset, but sort of more invigorated, she turns into Vajravetali, Vajrayogini, whatever. That's just, it's all female Buddha. So yes, you could say they're all the same, but in particular lineage practices, you would have them related to particular practice. So I can't say that Vajrayogini is Vajravetali, pervasive of all practices. In essence, yes. In the particular visualization, no.
Okay, Lama Dorje asks, are the channels and knots real, or are they just methods we use in Tantra to play with our minds?
I would say a little bit of both. I believe, the easy one is that when you were a young teenager and you had your first date and your throat got all tight, that was one of your chakras. Okay, or maybe you had a really nice experience and your heart just opened up with this incredible sensation. And I'm not talking the physical, I'm talking in the center of the chest. So for me, yeah, the chakras, nerve centers. Now, are they literally a physical point? I don't know. I mean, acupuncture has them as a physical point, like the crown chakra. And I mean, go to an acupuncturist and there are specific points. And you even have a little machine that you can put on your body and you go along and you can find the key acupuncture points. So I'd say, yeah, they are physical points, nervous system. So yes, I would recommend not being overly obsessive with visualizations, for example, with Tumo, because you should find the place that your Tumo is. And if you're doing this visualization, maybe you're doing it in the wrong spot. So you should go in with your feelings and feel your abdomen and move around inside of there. And then suddenly you'll hit this spot that goes, ooh, that feels pretty good. That would most likely be your point of Tumo. It might not coincide with so-called your visualization. So a little bit of the both. I would think physical feelings are a little bit more important than a visualization.
Okay. You said yoga and exercise are good for preparing the nervous system. Do you recommend cold showers, ice baths as well?
That's more Hindu with Kundalini. Okay, I mean, should you have cold baths and showers and things like that? Let's just say that happens in Kundalini ashrams. I've never seen a Tibetan Lama, they take cold showers because they don't have heaters, but I don't think they do it as a yogic exercise. The Tibetans didn't do yoga because it was 12,000 feet and no central heating. They do, what's called a true core, these exercises. Glenn Mullen teaches that quite a bit. So there are exercises to wake it up. But I think that we can be more creative. There's incredible statistics that just yoga, what it does is you stretch with yoga. And what it does is it makes the fluid of the various cells, which are, the cause of, when I move my arm, what it is this one little nerve cell sends a little electric pulse from its fluid to the next cell, to the next cell, and then I move my hands. So they say statistically that doing stretching is very good for really improving the flow of the electrical current, which is moved from one nerve cell to the next by a liquid, makes them better. So I think yoga is a really good thing to do. Tai Chi is very good. Qigong is very good. They're all complementary. But again, we do it with bodhicitta. We're a bodhisattva practicing those things. So I just leave it at that, okay?
John, could you very briefly elaborate a little bit on the mantra, time, and the third kind of retreat you mentioned?
Okay. Well, the three retreats are number, mantra, time, or vision or experience. So number of mantra, to do what's called a Leerung, suitable for activity, means is you can do self-initiations, purifications, things like that. That is 100,000 mantra and 10,000 of what's called a wisdom rain mantra. If you have a tantric guru, that teacher will teach you, or you can write me and I'll give you the details. That's not a problem. So that's called the lay room, but that's to be suitable to do activities. You could do a number retreat mantra, but not related to 100,000. Just to, I want to do 10,000 this weekend, or whatever you would decide. That's a possibility. Second one, time, and that's just time. Like, oh, Friday night after I get home from work, I'm starting a retreat, and I'm going to go till Sunday afternoon. So you set time, and then you do the retreat very strictly. Like, yes, this is my retreat time. And however many sessions you do is your own choice. We often say, 4 sessions a day. When I did my great retreat, I did 6 sessions a day, but each session was an hour and a half, going towards 2 hours, because I didn't want to sit there for 3 hours or 2.5 hours like the Tibetans will. I have a Western body, so I could do a really nice session in an hour and a half. So I did 6 a day. Like I say, if you do a retreat, it's different timings, but like that. So time retreat for a weekend, you can create the length of sessions that you want and make it useful for yourself. I mean, sitting for 3 hours would most likely put you to sleep and with lots of pain in your body. So what's the use of that? In meditation practice, it's not torturing yourself. It's becoming enlightened. So anyway, that's time. And sign, the best one, of course, is having a vision of Vajra, maybe a very good dream. I know of, let's say, one fellow in Mexico had a fallout with the guru. The guru was not a very good one, sort of a young upstart that said he had received special teachings and this and that. He became my friend's teacher, and then later it was sort of obvious that he really didn't have the qualifications. But suddenly, my friend had a guru, but it had gone bad. So he sat down and did Vajrasattva practice for a long time, and finally had a dream where he met with this guru in his dream, and they shook hands and they were very friendly. So he took that as the sign, I've now purified for the problem that I had with that guru. So that's a sign. But so signs would be, Vajra comes or something. Again, the best one is you have a vision. So that one, I would say, a little bit harder, unless you're a monk or a nun or single and just sort of have lots of time to do retreat, that you finally have a direct vision of Vajra. The easier one is time, and the easier one is mantra. And we'll talk about how to recite mantras well in a while.
In a lay room retreat, if you have a lucid dream of the Yidam, do you need to do the fire puja?
Yes, that's only because it's a qualification. I mean, if you have a lucid dream and you meet Vajra, wow, that's great. Congratulations. But just do, get the certificate, which is do the fire ritual. It's merely that if let's say, for example, that you're a really good practitioner, and then you're going to be able to give initiations, or you want to do self-initiation. Well, you should do what's just necessary. If you have visions, lucid dreams and visions of Vajra, great, but just do what's necessary in a mundane way, because then you can say, I've done the retreat, I've done the fire ritual for a mundane person, just a regular person. So you have qualification.
What's the difference between the bodhicitta in the crown and ultimate bodhicitta?
Okay, when you talk about bodhicitta in the crown, you're basically talking about hormones, the descent of hormones and such. It's a nectar, or whatever you want to call. Ultimate bodhicitta is an ultimate nature of reality. We often say relative bodhicitta, that's love and compassion. Ultimate bodhicitta is the ultimate nature of reality, open like the space of the sky, no form. So that's one term that's for it. Relative with form, ultimate without form. Both of them within the context of understanding the nature of reality. When you talk about the red and the white bodhicittas, you're talking about, nectars or hormonal secretions which stimulate the body. So that they are seen as the same word, different meaning.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, guys, so good. We were an hour and 45 minutes. That's good. Tomorrow we'll come back and do just touch on Vajra and start to go into the whole process, the whole teachings of Guru Yoga. Thank you very much. If you have questions that you didn't quite get typed in fast enough, we'll do them tomorrow. Just note them down. I'm more than happy to help. I'm almost finished in the morning and afternoon sessions, which are about an hour and 10 minutes long. I'm almost finished I'm up to the recitation of mantras. So if you want to, those are all posted on the YouTube channel. They're what you call, they're unlisted, but my admin, the guy that runs the system, Andrew, he's posting it to all of you who have registered. If some of you have not or arrived and attended everything, not registered, you can send me or send us the saying, hey, I'm not getting the registered membership emails, and I'll send you the link for it. I haven't, we're copying it down. So all of the different videos on YouTube, and it's unlisted. Please only share it with people to have initiation. It's precious material. Okay, so if tomorrow